In this image, an urban river runs bright neon green, marking the massive commercial scale of modern St. Patrick's Day festivals. But despite the global association, the patron saint of Ireland was not actually Irish. Even the signature color is a mismatch. For centuries, the shade tied to his name and the holiday was a specific St. Patrick's blue. He never banished snakes from the island, which never had them to begin with, and those magical leprechauns have no connection to his life or his teachings. For much of the country's history, the day was so solemn that Irish pubs were legally mandated to stay closed on March 17th. This modern party is a collection of later inventions, built over a much darker true story of human trafficking, a 200-mile escape, and a diaspora struggle for survival. The history starts in late 4th century Roman Britain with a teenager named Maewyn Succat. Born into a wealthy family, he grew up with little interest in the church or the faith of his elders. That comfort ended when Irish raiders attacked his town. They captured the 16-year-old and dragged him across the sea to Ireland. Maewyn was sold into slavery. For 6 years, he worked as a solitary shepherd in the Irish wilderness, watching sheep on hillsides through harsh weather. During these long years of isolation, Maewyn's outlook shifted. With no one else to turn to, he began to pray constantly, finding a religious focus that hadn't existed during his life in Britain. He eventually followed a vision that told him a ship was waiting to take him home. He escaped his captors, traveled 200 miles across Ireland to reach the coast, and convinced a crew to let him aboard for the dangerous journey back to Britain. Once safe and reunited with his family, he made a choice few would expect. He studied to become a bishop and decided to return to the land of his captors, not to seek revenge, but to offer them the very faith he had found during his enslavement. Patrick spent decades traveling Ireland, baptizing thousands and working with tribal leaders until his death on March 17th. In the centuries that followed, the date became a quiet religious feast day. Over time, stories began to simplify his complex theology. One legend claims he used the 3 leaves of the shamrock to explain the concept of the Holy Trinity. Then there is the claim he drove the snakes out of Ireland. But geological records show the island separated from Europe before snakes could migrate there. Historians believe the snakes were a metaphor, describing Patrick removing old pagan beliefs as his teachings spread. As the centuries passed, these metaphors layered over the historical facts. The real missionary became secondary to the myth, creating the icon recognized by people all over the world today. The holiday's transition into a public event didn't happen in Ireland, but in the United States. In the 1800s, millions of Irish immigrants arrived in American cities, fleeing the devastating Great Famine. These new arrivals faced heavy discrimination and were often barred from jobs or social acceptance in their new homes. To show their strength, Irish communities in cities like Boston and New York organized massive parades. These were public demonstrations of political unity and resilience, designed to stake a claim in a hostile urban landscape. This American context also solidified the color green. It linked the holiday to the Emerald Isle and served as a symbol for Irish nationalist movements, eventually replacing the traditional blue. In the 20th century, the festivities became a broad American tradition. Commercial interests brought in unrelated folklore, like the gold-hiding leprechauns, to help market the holiday to a wider audience. Today, the day is a mix of ancient myth and modern marketing. But beneath the parades is a story of a boy who turned trauma into forgiveness, and a diaspora that used his memory to build a new life in a new world.